All right, so now we've got our legal entities in here for my report, and I see here on the side you uploaded it to legal entity, and in a previous session under month, that's where we were able to adjust things like the years available to me, the months, something like that. So that's where you go for that. If you need more information, check out the previous session.
Right.
And what do I do now?
Now it's time to check out the PandL account. So when we go to the dimension PandL account and expand, you see it's kind of blueprint already inside. So some stuff is some accounts are needed. So the major entrance point into the structure, the all PandL accounts, some unassigned elements, and then this is really template structure. So that you have quite a feeling how you have to define and design accounts. Actually, I don't like them because you sent me your own your account. So we can delete the stuff here, but we keep the 3 base minimum structure elements here. And then let's take a look.
Wait a second. Yeah. So I just noticed that this is really similar. So here we have the all PandL accounts, and that's a lot like in legal entity. We also had this top hierarchy level, and that would be then the top parent. That's
Correct.
what it's called, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right. And now let's take a look to your PandL and report you sent me. Quite nice. Thank you for this. And you have already implemented some account numbers we need. Now let's say this is ACME or Academy, the abbreviation, and you have to follow a little bit your calculations here. So where you see the gross profit is, for example, just calculated in Excel. It's the net sales, subtract from cost of goods and sold. You have some expenses inside. You have the total expenses and the net income calculated, and we have even KPI. So the steps we need to do is the structure you have implemented here in your report must be added as a hierarchy information to the account dimension, but not by adding everything manually. So
yeah, that would be awful.
This would be awful, right? So actually we are going to use our Excel file where we started with our legal entity configuration, and again we go to PandL account. Known from our previous session. We adjusted this in our previous session, but this time I want to delete everything and start from scratch. So what I'm going to do is I'm deleting not everything. I will keep 1 or 2 rows as a template. So let's say we are going to delete everything here. What I want to keep is the type income and conversion average and the format, so that I can use this as a copy source, and 1 row for where I have expenses inside, because the type here is also needed for the system to identify from a functional point of view what is cost of sales is an expense and total revenue is an income. And the currency conversion, so the smart part of the model in the background, knows how to calculate the currency. So here it's the average value or average data from a month will be taken. So let's drop some more lines. So we drop this here.
I'm glad to watch you doing this, because I would be very nervous to do this without your support. So thanks again.
You can really more or less drop everything. If you delete too much, don't care about this. You have always a copy of the Excel file.
Fair enough.
Right? And so what the next steps you have to do is you have to get your accounts with the number and some names from the Excel file into the Excel file that is our structure, right? I have prepared a little bit, right, so that I place the names in the correct column. I have the child IDs available on the right column, and now we are going to adjust this step by step.
Okay.
Right?
So far, so good.
We speed up a little bit, so we have copied the accounts you gave me to the Excel file. I dropped some empty rows in between. And the next thing I did here is to create the hierarchy based on what you gave me as the calculation structure. So let's take gross profit as a sample. So gross profit is calculated by net sales, subtract by cost of goods sold. And this is AC110 and AC120, the account numbers. So if you go and search for AC110 and AC120 as your accounts in the child column, you see that we have both assigned to the parent AC130. And AC130 is our gross profit. You gave me the calculation that it's net sales subtract by cost of goods. So we reflect this here exactly like you define it in Excel, just by using the weight. So AC110 is added, summed up to AC130, and AC120 is subtracted. Right. And this is how you move on through your complete calculation. Find the appropriate parent element, define whether it should be subtracted or summed up, and then you are fine. Every top element we have created, so the account P&L, for example, this is our profit and loss overall hierarchy node, is then assigned to the topmost element, the all P&L accounts, and maybe here, just to remember, this is the guy that is predefined in our dimension.
Okay, and so you always see the different levels, and you have to define the parents so that the children are underneath them, and based on the weight with +1 or -1, that reflects where I subtract my negative data. I think I'm following.
Okay, correct, good. So, as we have our structure now defined, we can actually drop the last pieces here from our template. We don't need them anymore. And now we have our structure defined now, like you gave me the structure. And I saw you have another piece inside your report, profit margin net calculation. Quite a challenge now, because this is a calculation. We can see it in your Excel file that takes the gross profit and subtract by total expenses and divide again by gross profit to get a nice percentage value. As you can imagine, with a -1 and a +1,
that's easy then.
That would be much easier, but we cannot divide here in the structure. So what I need is to reflect this calculation somehow in our model. And the model is very smart at this point here. So let's take a little helping file here. So our Excel calculation says take cell 1 minus the cell 2, and then again divide by cell number 1. And if I follow your account structure and map the cells that you are using to calculate the value to our given account names, I have AC130, subtract by AC220, and then divide by AC130.
Yeah, so far so good.
Right, so this is actually the calculation I need to put into my configuration, but I need a specific naming convention to follow, syntax, so that the smart system in the background I can identify this correctly. So we have a dimension name and account name we need. And the dimension name we are working with is P&L account. You remember?
Yeah, so this one is P&L account, whereas previously when we uploaded the legal entity, that dimension name was legal entity.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah, we can take a look here. It's P&L account is the dimension name. And as a second part, we need the account name. So if we take our already created calculation and we map this to our syntax here, we end up with this formula. So inside P&L account, the account 130 will be subtract with the next account and then divide by AC130.
Yeah, so I feel good with this formula. Where do I actually input it?
Right. So we have created the formula, as we need it for the system. So you copy the entire formula, you go back to the Excel file, you search for the KPI you want to be calculated by this particular formula, and you have to go to some columns at the back. Let me expand the Excel file here. You have a column, it's called P calculation, and you have a column called A calculation. There are some other columns available where you can find more details in the knowledgebase.jetdocs.com. For our configuration here, it's very important that we calculate for the P calculation plan values, the KPI as we define it, but this should be calculated in the same with the same procedure also for actual value, and this is A calculation. So we need the formula in two columns. If you really need to calculate the KPI for planning and actual values different, you have here exactly the possibility to change the formula. But for the moment, it's exactly what we need. Formula is inside. We have defined our structure.
One thing.
Yeah.
So here the weight is 0. Why is that? Because it makes sense to me with the +1 and -1. What about that one?
You had a good eye. As you remember, the -1, +1 is defining how the values are calculated into the next parent element. If I would calculate the profit margin and would sum it up to a top element called KPIs, I would see a value exactly reflected by profit margin net. If I would have multiple KPIs underneath, I would also calculate them together.
Okay, and then I'd have nonsense data.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we define the weight 0, and this means don't roll it up. Don't calculate into the next parent.
Okay,
and
so it's not summed up in anything, and my numbers are solid.
Correct.
Okay.
Now it looks we are ready for uploading the data.
Let me double check so I understand it all. It looks like there's something that wasn't in my report though. In line 21, there's AC stats.
Oh, I guess I did a copy and paste error here. So actually AC KPI should be a sibling of our AC PandL account, like in your report you showed me. Right, so it's a sibling from profit and loss statement. So what we need is the overall parent, the topmost parent. So I'm just replacing the parent information so that AC KPI is now mapped to or assigned to the parent all PandL accounts. Don't forget to save. Now we can go and upload the new structure to our empty PandL accounts dimension. Remember, we dropped some of the template stuff here, but we keep the minimum information.
All right, so far so good, and now we're ready to upload it. And you right-clicked on PandL account, and then you uploaded the file you just saved, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So we go here, take the model setup, and you remember the system is very smart here. It identifies directly the correct range. We have our structure inside, we have build, and as your report is using multiple sources for multiple calculations, we have a hierarchy with multiple parents. So we need to mark this here so that our structure is reflected, built correctly.
Yeah, that was something we covered in a previous session. We saw how our data got a little messed up, and with that one check, everything was fine again.
Correct. And after the file is uploaded successfully, you see we have the all PandL accounts, and underneath we have one structure covering your PandL accounts, AC 130 for example, and the correct roll up is defined as we did it in Excel, and we have the sibling here that is covering the KPI calculation.
All right, looks good.